welcome to Roundtable Live for September 9th, 2016. I'm BaerTaffy, joined by Matt. This game's Rock V, Smile, Northern Lion. The gang's all here. We did
Hello.
Hey, we're back to normal.
Made it for another podcast. This is just a dynamic I've missed out on. Let's just sit here and embrace this collective energy for a second. All this
back at it again.
The quad.
Can I call out the scum chat for just telling me that if you want to make crazy meme text, all you have to do is hold control, and then if you want to type WTF, it'll be in meme text, but they closed the window on me.
Oh, no.
Rude.
Well, that's just ruined the chat for the next 2 hours, I guess. So there's a bonus.
That's like delete system 32 2.0. I never knew.
What's the shortcut to using this ability? Oh, it's Alt F4.
Hey, we were at PAX West. The thing, myself and Ryan.
PAX?
PAX is an annual event where you go and make your feet real sore, and you play a bunch of video games, and then you get sick. That's
Bear, you're not sick?
I'm not sick anymore. Definitely not.
You were sick? Oh,
sick.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was like
I did not get sick.
Good. I'm glad.
Me either.
I think I've realized, don't put the nauseous rift on your face and literally breathe in the germs of like 100 other PAX attendees every single day. Also, wash your hands with warm soapy water on every occasion and never touch your eyes or mouth.
Ever. Not even just at PAX, but just like never do that.
Just in general.
It's a good way to avoid germs. I didn't actually end up using the Nautilus Rift, by the way. I backed out of that at the last possible moment. I took some gambles, though, playing a couple of VR experiences, and that might have been my downfall. But yeah, we're good to go now. Did you guys were you fearing missing out at all with PAX West this year, Nick and Mathis, or did you just sort of see like a list of lineups?
I always miss out on this shared experience, this social group dynamic, and that's really the big thing for me, because I could play most of these games at home, but it's just fun to see everybody. So yeah, I missed that part for sure. But I'm glad you guys had a good time, and hopefully we'll meet up again at another one.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I definitely missed hanging out with you guys, but at the same time, it was really nice not having to go anywhere for like the first time in like all summer. Part of me was like, oh man, I'm missing PAX, but once like the day came and went that I should have been there, I was like, oh, this is going to be a nice little vacation from having to travel.
Right.
Awesome.
The constant tweets kind of remind you, like, oh, well, I'd rather not be stuck in that situation right now. And then sometimes it reminds you, oh, I'd really like to be stuck in that situation. It's just a little cool.
What situation were you worried about being stuck in?
No, it's a lot of people at the airport complaining about they lost my luggage, stuck at this place waiting for someone, all of that kind of stuff. And then there's like, hey, I met up with all these people I like. That's good stuff. I like that.
I'll say, like, there is the initial swarm on day one that is quite a bit intimidating to me, at least, of the literally thousands of people that are all pouring into the front door. But it dissipates pretty quickly after that.
They welcome you to the swarm, right?
Yes, yeah, I do have to stay in line with that, don't I? PAX West, though, we were indeed in attendance. Let's just dive into it, yeah, man. Like, there was one in particular that I know we both saw called Tumbleseed that I want to talk about.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Do you want to hit me with that?
Sure. Tumbleseed is being designed and programmed by Greg Woland, who also was one of the programmers on Ridiculous Fishing and designer and programmer on Threes. Some combination of designer and programmer on all those. And he's making a new game that is a quote-unquote rolling roguelite. And the easiest way that I could explain it is, like, imagine that you control like a board, like a stick of Dove Men Plus Care deodorant, and
they've got the visual aid. You don't have
to. Here it is.
All right.
Each of your thumbsticks pushes it up in one direction. So if you push the left thumbstick up, it goes like that. Push the right thumbstick up, it goes like that. If you push them both up at the same time, it just elevates. And then you have a ball in the middle that is your player character, and there's all sorts of obstacles, but you're trying to push the ball up a mountain, essentially without falling into all these holes that are around. And every run's different. You die a lot. You get Mega Man suits that give you different powers, and then resources you can use to use those powers. It looks super sweet.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. I played like 40 minutes of it. I really took advantage of it being a dark room. And also, I was kind of like, normally for press appointments, I'm like, be careful, don't spend too much time. People are waiting in line. For this, I was like, I'm a roguelike guy. I'm going to take my time here and be a little bit of a dick maybe, but it was wonderful either way.
I had a great time with it. Did you play it on the show floor?
I played it in the Cards Against Humanity theater, so it was that like big dark room that was like just across the way.
Did they have the
from the
custom
convention center.
cabinet controller set up for you though?
They did, but I just used I used a 360 pad. But I saw that they had the arcade stick as well.
I was wondering, because I ended up playing it on that they made a big old custom arcade cabinet box specifically to allow people to play Tumbleseed that way on the show floor. They were showing me in the email pitch for this as well. I guess this is based on like an old arcade game that is basically this exact same sort of gameplay where you had these physical holes in the wall that you were trying to pass by with a marble as you were raising the platform up. So it did translate fairly well. Obviously, you know, like with the arcade cabinet, it felt quite a bit like you were doing that exact motion. But I was wondering if it would be just as satisfying on the controller, on just the thumbsticks. And it sounds like it is.
Yeah, it felt really good, actually. And I think, like, people look at it and they go, like, this isn't the kind of thing I could imagine spending, like, 200 hours with on PC. But it seems to me to be, like, a really good, like, premium mobile game. Like Threes or like Ridiculous Fishing or maybe even like Downwell, you know, something you can play on PC and still enjoy it, but maybe not the kind of thing that you're going to spend like 400 hours on, but still, it seemed really cool.
I made note of it maybe being sort of a reverse Downwell, and they kind of latched onto that idea. They had a lot of Spelunky influences too, it sounded like. I really like the way the power-ups work, though. They're made to cooperate very nicely with the gameplay. Like the checkpoint seed, for example, is the one that you can use to actually set waypoints so that if you fall into a hole, you don't go all the way back to the start. You just go back to that certain spot. And then you can use those like in congruence with your attack seed, which just has those little spikes around the end of it. You've got your charge seed that you can use to gain more crystals, which are what you use to actually use the skills. And it works fairly well in congruence with one another, and I really enjoyed that. Yeah, it's a good time. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it. I think I'm going to play quite a bit more of it too.
It was probably my second favorite game of PAX.
Damn. That's big. Mm-hmm.
Can I ask, I don't know if you said this already, but what was like the overall structure of the game? Was there like a series of maps with like an overworld, or how did it...
I think
you play, like, there's a mountain that kind of represents the overworld, and then you go from segment to segment on that mountain, but when you lose all of your health, you go down to the bottom. Almost like you would in Isaac. If you died, you'd restart on, like, the basement one. So it wasn't like beat this level and then you never have to do it again.
Sure.
It was meant to be done in, like, in one run, I think.
And I don't think there's any sense of like permanent progression either that I can recall. I don't think there was
There's no Rogue Legacy.
Yeah, none of that sort of
metagame
to there. But I don't think it really needs it. I think this is just like sort of the gameplay is unique enough to where you're not really going to have anything like it that you've experienced up to this point. At least I never have. So that alone was probably enough of a sell. But it's really good. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, I really liked it.
Mm-hmm. Anything else you want to jump into?
You know what? I was on point this year.
Yeah?
I have a digitized schedule of everything that I saw.
Damn.
Too organized.
Is
I
that
can give you my rapid fire impressions of the stuff that was particularly dope.
Sure. That sounds good.
Tumbleseed was definitely up there. The thing that I keep saying was like the game of the show for me was Oxygen Not Included from Clay. So that's like I'm trying to find like a better way to describe it, but imagine like Terraria, but instead of like crafting survival elements, it's like Terraria as RimWorld. It's like if Redigit made RimWorld. So it's a colony simulator, but it takes place in like an ant farm style viewpoint. So you're looking at it from like the side as opposed to top down. And the gameplay loop that we saw was basically like you spawn with 3 colonists. Immediately you're in this like shitty cave that's closed in. Now they breathe oxygen and they exhale CO2, but they need oxygen to live. So slowly they're dying by replacing oxygen with CO2. So you have to like dig out to make like more space that has oxygen in it, and then eventually get the resources to build like a CO2 scrubber, which is like an algae farm, and then you can get oxygen. But it also has elements of like that falling sand game that was super popular like 15 years ago. You know, where you'd have like oil
sandbox game.
Like you'd have like falling sand and then like oil, and the oil would catch fire and it would melt ice and turn it into water and stuff like that. So there's all sorts of like chemical and physical elements involved there. Like, for example, you can have like, I know this sounds like Sean Murray right now, but you'll have like an ice biome.
Did they make their own?
In theory,
table?
you can take heat and using pipes transfer that heat from where you are. You have all these machines that generate heat, and then you pump the heat out so your colonists don't overheat and die, but you pump it into an ice biome. It creates water from the ice by melting the ice, and then you can pipe the water back into your base. You can even use that water to cool, the environment that's producing the heat to begin with. It seems really cool, and we saw some light elements of like the dude like moused over and was like, check this out. There's like lava and ice next to one another, and it's creating steam, and then the steam is like powering a turbine, and you can see like the points at which all the elements were interacting. It seems super like ambitious, and we're kind of on the Steam page. It says it's coming out whenever it's ready, which is a very sensible approach, I'd imagine. But it seems like this could come out in early access like next week, or it could come out in early access in like 5 years.
I heard they had to redesign the entire periodic table just so they could redesign the atoms and make the sky green.
It's the only way to make the sky green.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that it wasn't just min-maxy. It had that kind of RimWorld or even The Sims, like, things are in chaos, but that's fun sort of element to it, too. But it's super early, but it was definitely, like, one of the few things I played where I was like, this is actually blowing my jaded ass away. If it works the way it's intended to work.
This is going to be a series on your channel.
Absolutely.
Did it look less complex than RimWorld? Like, the micromanaging was more accessible?
I wouldn't necessarily say that.
Would you... Sorry, go ahead.
The work menu was exactly the same as RimWorld. Like the prioritizing by like 1, 2, 3, 4 and stuff.
That's like the one menu that gets me the most. Damn it.
Tell you, man, once you understand the 1, 2, 3, 4 priority system, it's really simple.
Yeah.
Well, I want to be down for it. Sounds like a great idea. I'd love to try it.
Once you understand just like, the core mechanics of how to build a rocket, then you just got to build the rocket.
But it's really
easy.
honest to God, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 is as simple as that. It's like 1 is the most important, 4 is the least important. You assign that way.
Is this like difficulty-wise? Is this like comparable to Don't Starve? I'm just making that comparison based on the developer, really. But it's like, is the level of inventory management and resources and stuff, like, is it comparable at all to the level of difficulty of Don't Starve?
I don't know. It's hard to say, but it seems sensible to suggest that it would be more complex, because I think that less people have played colony simulators than have played like survival sandbox games.
Yeah.
But I will say, coming from RimWorld, the dude was explaining like all the interfaces and overlays, and I was like, yeah, I get it. Like, I would not to be rude, but I get
it really looks just like a clay RimWorld when you take a look at the screenshots and stuff.
Like, you're pitching this to a lot of people, I get it, but I've played like 60 hours of RimWorld, even though I suck at it. So I understand at least what the intention is here.
Right.
It looks like RimWorld with clay. Not to be rude to RimWorld, it looks like RimWorld, but it looks good. Mm-hmm. Like, it does. Not that RimWorld looks bad, but it looks better than just
Clay. Like,
it's not a very good-looking game.
You're not bashing on it though. It's like, A, RimWorld is not known for its graphical appeal, and B, like, Clay kind of is. Clay has a very unique art style that they sell, and it works.
And they have like a team.
Yeah.
It's not just Tyne and Sylvester grinding away, making every single asset.
Like, freaking Dwarf Fortress has been in development for like 11 years by one dude and his brother part-time.
Yeah,
all these simulators are just like one person.
Mm-hmm. Well, that probably just anybody who's worked in the industry for any length of time is like, you want me to work on your colony simulator? Like, don't those have a reputation for never coming out? And, like, why would I get spoiled in that?
You want me to work on your colony simulator? Oh, I guess I'll be doing that for the next 15 years. Yeah, that sounds good.
That's my life now.
Looking for more programmers for the next Yog Ventures, if anyone wants to join me.
So that looked really cool.
Yeah, great.
But it could be like forever away. Mm-hmm. And then I think there's some stuff that like both you and I played. Yeah. Like, did you jam out with some of Ubisoft's new game, For Honor?
I sure as hell did, and I think I'm way more excited about it than you are. But you first though. You first though.
Okay. All right. Well, For Honor, like I thought it was like Ubisoft making Chivalry, but with like AAA budget and polish. It's not really. It's the domination mode is like two different games in one. There's player-to-player combat where you're like a medieval knight or a samurai or something like that, and you're basically playing like a little rock, paper, scissors, kind of like 3D Nidhogg against the other person. So you choose to do like a light or a strong attack on like the left, the high, or the right side. And then if they block on that side, they get a little window to attack you back. So there's lots of feints and stuff like that. But then also the domination mode is like control points. So you have like an A control point, a C control point that are controlled by the enemy or by each team at the start. And then the B control point is like a lane, kind of like a MOBA,
right?
And that's you try to control all of them to get your points up as high as possible, and then it becomes kind of like Dynasty Warriors, where you wade into the middle and you just one hit like enemy creeps and just chop their head off and stuff like that, and it feels good, but at the same time, I was like, this is not what I'm interested in with this game, is just hanging out in the center lane slaughtering creeps.
Is there a benefit to killing the creeps? Like, do you level up
or
anything?
Well, I kind of want to sell that point because I feel like it's actually, so you mentioned that it's a little bit like Dynasty Warriors, and you're right, but it's a more elegant Dynasty Warriors in that you're not just running around wildly swinging your axe and destroying the lives of 12 plus people at the same time. Like you're going up and you're like having actual combat, but you're clearly a far superior warrior. It's like watching a hero in Game of Thrones go and like systematically slaughter a whole bunch of people. So
I don't know, maybe your perception of the build was different, but whenever I was like, we need to take control point B, and that's to Mathis's point where he's like, why would you even do that? You need to slaughter all the enemy creeps and have your creeps push up to take the neutral control point, basically.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can't take the control point by yourself. You need the creeps.
No, it needs to be uncontested, so you need to have like just your dudes there. But whenever I had to do that, I just waded into the middle and just mashed light attack. And my dude was animated really nicely. Mm-hmm. He was cracking people over the skulls with some fluidity. But at the same time, like anytime they hit me, it took off like 1% of my health. And then you're like, okay, you're brain dead, lost your shoulder, like cut your head off. Like you're pretty much like Superman compared to these guys.
Well, it could have been for the show too, because people are going to be bad at it, so they want to have like a power experience while they're there.
There's a possibility
of that,
yeah.
But I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I think
I think it's working as designed, I guess.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And you're right in that like they don't actually pose a challenge, of course. Like the enemies that are the fodder more or less are not really going to be an issue for you. But I like that they have that as the sort of mechanic that interrupts just three heroes going at each other, you know? Like it
You know what it sounds similar to? Titanfall.
Yes, actually very very much so.
With the dumb AI just wandering around the battlefield while it's a 5-on-5 fight of actual people.
Yeah, I think a lot of people forget that Titanfall also had like 100 AI on the map at any given moment.
Yeah, I did forget that, actually.
I think a lot of people just forget about Titanfall.
But Titanfall, they had like the creeps had a purpose. I remember you shot them and you would get like, was it points or something?
Moved you up to like you got
get
points
your Titan faster.
Your car, your Titans.
Yeah, and you could like summon your Titan faster and stuff. So is there any purpose to these things other than taking the point? Like killing NPCs, is there any like, do you build a special meter, or is there experience points or currency?
To keep it like as not granular as possible, you do need to get to X points, and then you can win the game by killing the enemy players. And killing these guys gives you points, but like you need 1,000 or 900 or something, and killing them gives you like 2 each.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, gotcha.
But I don't know, man. Like I liked it well enough. It definitely was not any sort of revolutionary mechanic or anything, but I think it was good for this game. I think just the way that a lot of my battles played out, there were a bunch of those fodder enemies in the middle, and then we would go in and try to, you know, push the line back. But then while we were doing that, that was like a great moment for the enemy team to set up a sort of pincer ambush attack while I was distracted. So it ended up playing into the strategy a lot more than I thought it would initially, and I feel like it's used best in the context that it is in the game, and it doesn't really have to be much more than that.
I will say, like, I didn't think it was bad. I just maybe had like higher expectations coming into it, and it didn't really stand up to those. But also the demo I played was like 10 a.m. Friday morning, and it was me and a writer and then 2 empty stations. And then on the other team, it was like one other YouTuber and 3 empty stations. And I was like, well, this maybe we're playing with AI basically.
Yeah.
It's filled out with
Yeah.
bots,
Yeah,
so
that was-
maybe there's a little bit of like a loss of enjoyment there. But like I'm still interested in it. I'm not as excited for it. I'm more in like a wait and see sort of moment.
Is there's a single player campaign, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the way that they at least pitched it seemed like it was like there is
Mostly
a single player
multiplayer.
campaign, but it's not really meant to be definitive. Like the multiplayer experience is
Gotcha.
what it's all about.
Did you do
That's what
the Did you do the 1v1 duel mode as well?
Yes, I did. And that struck me as being like, I like the essence of this combat a little bit more, but I don't see myself going in and playing it like you'd play a fighting game or something like
Right.
that. It was fun for like 20 minutes, and then I was like, I just want to. As much as I don't like the gameplay abstraction that they make with the creeps and the MOBA isms, that's kind of like the way I'd rather play than just the one. But there's some cool like feints and stuff like that happened in that.
The combat is it's simple in that there's really only like 5 elements to it, including like the 3 positions you hold and then the quick and the strong attack. But that does introduce enough variety, I think, to keep the one-on-one interactions engaging. I like the team play, like you said, a lot more though, just because I think it's really cool how much it matters to work together as opposed to just like running around and being a solo idiot. Like the times that I played, at least, somehow the guys on the other side were professional by game 2, and they they were teaming up and like launching those aforementioned ambushes on me all the time, and I was like, wow, okay, I'm starting to see very quickly how this can develop into legitimate gameplay and strategy and stuff. So it was really impressive for me in that regard. I think maybe I just had a little bit better of an experience just because we had a full group that was all humans going hardcore at it. They were kicking my ass, actually. They were destroying us. But then
it doesn't come out until February anyway, so it's got a decent amount of time left.
Yeah. So yeah, For Honor though, I am excited to see. I got sold hard the second Jason Vandenberg got on that stage though, man. God, his presentation at E3 with the dude with the beard and the cane and all that. You guys remember him? No, nobody remembers him. I guess it was just me, man. Like it was like, oh, he got up there and was just straight up a Viking and sold me the hell on For Honor. But yeah, it's exciting. I'm looking forward to playing more. You got anything else on the list?
I'll rattle out some stuff super quickly.
Okay.
Also from Ubisoft, I thought that if you like South Park: The Stick of Truth, there's absolutely no reason not to be excited for the new game, which is I can barely bring myself to play it, or to say it, I should say. It's called The Fractured Butthole, or The Fractured Butthole. It basically has exactly the same tone as the first South Park game, which is pretty much spot on from the show. And then the combat is way, or at least seems way better. It still seems super simplistic, but instead of being just like turn-based RPG and really, really easy, if I'm being honest, it has kind of like a grid-based Banner Saga or really light XCOM thing going on.
Yeah.
Which I think is a market improvement. So I think if you like the first one, it seems like the second one's going to be dope. But I'm really interested to see how it's received in the current climate. Because like, even in the demo, I was like, there's some stuff in here that... Not that the first game was not controversial, but there's some stuff in here that's like... I mean, the game... I'm not even trying to start anything, but I was like, man, the press demo, they make like a rape joke. That's unusual in the present climate. So... I mean, it's South Park, right? Like, you know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see how kind of the reaction is. But, like, from a gameplay perspective, it seems like it's going to be awesome. And I really like the first one, so I'll probably check this one out if I get the time.
I am super excited for The Fractured Butthole. I think this is a pretty broad assumption of me to make, but I feel like a lot of the focus, or most of the focus in the Stick of Truth was put on making the game more like a South Park episode, and that worked in a lot of ways. That was a lot of why people enjoyed the Stick of Truth. That was sort of a strength of the game, in that it felt just like you're playing another episode of South Park, or like an extended episode of South Park. But the gameplay purely was boring to me. I never really got that into it. I never felt like it was that interesting or that engaging. But like you said, like they've put a heavy focus on the combat this time around, it seems, and especially like as far as what your character does and how you can upgrade them. There's all these different classes now. Well, there's 3 at the moment, but I think they have like their own branching skill sets and all that shit. So I'm excited to see what they do with that, what they do further with that. for sure.
Yeah, and I think it looks good.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what else. Let me peep this. Anything else stand out to you in particular?
Well, you didn't play Steep while you were at the Ubisoft booth, then, right? Okay, so
I played Steep.
oh, you did play Steep. All right. What did you think? What did you think about Steep?
Thought it was okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Early, and for some reason, like I was not in a bad place at all at PAX, but Steep is the only game that for about 10 seconds I was like, I may have to vomit. I may have to throw up.
Really?
I don't know what it was.
Oh, God.
Like I was hungry and I had like 2 coffees, and then he's like, "Hey, go into first person mode while you're in your wingsuit flying in between mountains." And then I was like, "Hey, this is pretty cool." And then like a hot flash and my chest got tight, and I'm like, just take a couple deep breaths, and I got over that wave of nausea and I was fine. But for a couple seconds I was like, "Oh, this is dangerous."
I am really excited about this, to be honest. I was really into SSX Tricky and SSX3 back in the day, and this, I mean, from day one I've been saying this basically looks like SSX3 brought to a modern standard and expanded upon a little bit, and it feels like that while I'm playing it as well. It's got a pretty simple control scheme for snowboarding and skiing, nothing too complex there. I don't think it's really focused on making like the best skiing or snowboarding game it possibly can. I think it's more focused on like the rush of these extreme sports and the freedom of exploration. Like it has that continuity that SSX3 had, where you can start at the top of the mountain and you can start by skiing down, and then you get to the end of that course and you can just keep going. Like it's so seamless in the transition of, okay, cool, you did that race and now just go find something else as you're going down the mountain, and then you go find a wingsuit path, or you go find what's the other one? They got parasailing, or no, they got skiing, snowboarding, I don't remember. But there's extreme sports of some variety.
Yeah, there's skiing, snowboarding, wingsuiting, and I think Nick's right, like paragliding or something
like that. Yeah. But yeah, I really appreciate that the way that they incorporate all the events together like that, and then. Yeah, just the gameplay was pretty good, pretty solid. It didn't really feel like there were a lot of issues to speak of, as far as I can tell. And it is still early, though, so we're yet to see the finished product, of course. But I thought it was exactly what I was hoping it would be, and I'm probably going to play the hell out of it, actually, because I was really into these games.
One thing that would sell me more on Steep is if it's like snowboarding Trackmania. Because that's kind of the vibe I got, is like they have like a minute-long stretch, and you can dynamically like queue for these events and fire them. But it's not like an extreme racing game where you like crash and you're like, well, okay, I'm back here in the halfway point and I'm gonna finish. Like you lose if you crash. Yeah. So I kind of wish they would just give you like 10 minutes, put your best lap time down, kind of like Action Hank, and then do that. But I actually don't know if that's true or if that's just speculation what it's actually going to be like. But I mean, I thought it was fine, but I was not blown away necessarily. It seems cool.
Sure.
Did you guys get to experience the darker side of Steep, where you get to watch your best friend die painfully on a tree? Because that's what the trailer was all about.
Was it?
I got to smash
it was
my
like
own neck.
nonstop murder simulation happening. There kept being people like, oh, it's 2 best friends flying down the side of a mountain. Oh, he's died. He's hit a tree.
There's a lot of like ragdolling and stuff like that. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I should have probably died from my injuries 2 or 3 times just during the demo session I had, so it wasn't a foreign concept. The first person...
You see people flying down, and the dude would just yelp, and then be gone. That would be the end of him.
I will say that I think, agreeing with Ryan here, in that the first-person mode it's a little janky, isn't it? Like, it feels like it's snapping from one portion to the next sometimes, and then... is I think a little motion sickness inducing just by itself. So you probably weren't alone in that sentiment.
If you don't mind, I'm just gonna rattle off some stuff super quickly, and then we can move on. Well, I played Afterbirth Plus. I saw some new items. It's Isaac. I got to fiddle around with the mod support a little bit. I imagine it's probably exactly what you're looking for.
Nice.
And maybe exactly what you expect as well. Hand of Fate 2 seems like it's coming along nicely. Combat still...
Is it still janky?
It's too easy. It's still like...
I saw TB's tweets that the combat's like vastly improved. I'm like, really?
I played it at E3 as well, and I think that it's shaping up really, really nicely. But still, in the combat, like every time, I was like, whenever it's just Arkham, like when the thing shows up, you just press the button, dodge, you get like a 100 hit combo, and just smoke everything. But that could be tweaking for show purposes as well.
Right.
I played the Rick and Morty VR.
Oh, you did?
Experience. It was like
Job Simulator.
Yeah, it's Job Simulator, and the demo was also less than like maybe 6 or 7 minutes long, but it had exactly like it was like the South Park Stick of Truth, but for Rick and Morty. Like it felt like it was an episode of the show, basically.
Awesome.
Which was really cool.
It's also interesting to note, sort of tangentially there, that Justin Roiland just announced Squanch Tendo is a legitimate development company currently working on VR projects, so that's sort of exciting too.
I played the new game from Torn Banner, Mirage Arcane Warfare.
Yes,
which
heard a lot
is
about it.
Like it's chivalry,
but
chivalry, but you're kind of like you're not mythical creatures, but you kind of are. Like you can be a big old bull, but there's like ranged combat and magic and stuff. And I'm on the fence, but I had a really good time with the demo. And what I like about it in comparison to chivalry, as much as this might sound like counterintuitive, is that there's way less customization. So instead of there being like, well, you can be a man-at-arms, and a man-at-arms has, the ability to have a warhammer or a bow and a shield or a mace and a shield or 2 maces or a short sword and a shield, and blah, blah, blah. Instead, there's just like 6 or 7 classes, and that's it. So you see someone coming for you, you're not like, and maybe this is an example of how casual I am, but you're not like, oh shit, he's got a left-handed warhammer. I know that if he does the poke with that, it does 40, pincer damage to my stomach or something like that. So instead, it seemed like a little easier to get into and a little bit more like combat focused instead of like I was just confused. I found chivalry fun but chaotic a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And there was one more. Give me a second here to look at it. This is the benefit of being organized for the first time in your life.
Is this a Google Calendar?
Yeah, it's Google Drive document I got here. It is... Oh, and surprisingly, Shadow Warrior 2.
Yeah,
I think that game
I was just going to say that. It's so cool, isn't it?
Yeah, I really want to play that.
It seems... I didn't like the original that much. I thought it was, like, okay. But this one, it basically seems like an ultra-violent Borderlands.
Yeah.
And I'm super okay with that. And I played it at PAX, and I played it at E3 before. And both times, I was like, I went into it being like, I didn't really like the first one that much, but I'll give it a shot. And I was like, I really like the quest setup. Yeah. Way more in this one than I liked it in the first one that was just linear. It seems like it's going to be super cool.
NLSS segment, maybe?
I think it could easily be an NLSS segment. Yeah.
I was trying to find the business card, actually, of the guy that I talked to over there at the Shadow Warrior 2 station. I'm trying to remember it off the top of my head, but he was actually telling me about, like, they listened to the complaints people had about the first Shadow Warrior. They made direct adjustments to reflect what people were frustrated with. Like, for example, they had a stamina bar in the first game, apparently. They just completely did away with that. Like, they just eliminated it so that people had a lot more freedom in their movement and just felt a lot more like a badass, which is what you want in this game. And I think they just added double jump in by default, which I guess was like a skill that you had to unlock. So there's that already, just like right out of the gate. It's the equivalent of like the new Doom just gives you a shotgun and tells you to go have fun. Like Shadow Warrior 2 apparently is sort of learning from that line of thinking and employing it into their sequel. And it's so much fun, man. Like all the different skills, the way that you can use them with each other, the amount of weapons, the way that you can customize the weapons. It's really like it's a little intimidating at first seeing all those different menus, but once I started to piece together what does what, it actually seemed like it would be really intuitive. And it looks like a bunch of fun, man. Like I'm really excited to play this too.
The animation work seemed really nice on it as well, as the graphics, super pretty.
Mm-hmm.
It has like depending on like the weapons that you use, they model like every single body part individually. So if you use like a chainsaw, you can cut off, it sounds gross, you can like cut off their hands. There's also like there's a power that you have that spikes enemies up, so they basically get put on a pedestal in front of you, and then they're just open season for carving because they're like incapacitated. You can just cut off all their limbs. I mean, it's violent. But I think like some people will feel betrayed. They'll be like, I really liked how Shadow Warrior 2013 or whatever year it came out was like an homage to early 2000s shooters, and this is definitely more on the like pseudo RPG like loot treadmill sort of first-person shooters, but I much prefer that actually. So I'm very excited for this one in comparison to the first one.
Right.
It's going to sound so dumb, but since the Soldier of Fortune series, I don't think anyone else has attempted to do the like body-specific limb loss thing.
Yeah.
And I kind of wanted more people to do that because it's so freaking ridiculously over the top, and Shadow Warrior is a perfect match for that technology.
It is, yeah, absolutely. I'm
very excited to play that.
Glad they're taking advantage of it. Okay. Well, I had a couple more that I wanted to note on real quick.
Man.
I know, Nick, you wanted to talk about Abduction as well on the show today.
Played a little bit of it, yeah.
Yeah. Let's do that real quick, because I actually played a bit of it on the Oculus Rift on the show floor, and that is, like, that game is perfect for the Oculus. It is I think it's going to be like the staple because it's gorgeous and the entire point of the game is to like walk around and interact with stuff. So it's this perfect framework for a VR experience, and it looks so good in the Oculus. Like I didn't even get like an optimal setup. Obviously, I'm there on the show floor with their kit they're using for everybody, so they just have to loosely adjust stuff and things. So it was even a little suboptimal, I imagine, but it still blew me away with how immersive it was. Like I really felt like I was just walking around in this ancient ethereal realm, and there was all this cool shit around me that I could touch and change up to change my world. And it was exactly what we were talking about, like 5 years ago. Like, man, imagine virtual reality. What if we could build a game where you have to physically reach in here and pull this rock out and change this ramp to fall down, like all that shit. Like it's perfect. It's great.
Did you get to use Oculus Touch for that?
Yeah, the little scroll wheel controller thing, right? That's the one.
The little claw hands that you get. It's like what Vive has, but for Oculus.
Oh, no, I didn't realize they had those available. No, I didn't do that.
No, it's not. I thought maybe they had them early for the demo or something.
No, I just had the little scroll wheel controller, which was perfect for that, too, by the way. Like, you didn't need a big, clumsy... Not that the 360 controller is like a big oafish thing, but, like, it's a lot easier to just have the little touchpad just to make it more immersive, I guess.
I didn't even think of that. Yeah, the tiny little thing would actually work fine. He's talking about this little thing here.
That's it. Yeah, that's all you need. It's brilliant. So, what'd you think of Abduction, though, Nick?
Real cool. For people that aren't aware of what it is, it's by the people who made Myst, and they haven't made a new game recently, except for, they've been working on this, obviously, for a while. But this is their return to form, and I have to say, it's a bit of an improvement, I think, for the general populace who might not have been completely initiated on the Myst formula. Mm-hmm. I think it's a lot more accessible. I think it's also a lot more interesting in some respects, but I think it keeps a lot of the fantasy element and a lot of the intrigue of the way that they kind of produce their atmosphere. And I mean, I don't want to spoil anything about the game because obviously it's one of those ones where a little bit goes a long way with regard to storytelling. But the very beginning has you walking in the woods and you see this strange light, and then you wake up in some sort of alien world that kind of looks like Earth, but you kind of know isn't. Mm-hmm. And you got to piece together a bunch of puzzles, walk around the environment and figure things out, sort of the Witness style minus all the line puzzles. Instead, you've got physical puzzles and things that just sort of intuitively start to make sense after a while.
Right.
So it's not like you're learning a complete language. It's not like no one's speaking to you. There are actually, in what I thought to be a very strange but actually kind of appropriate reference, there is actually cutscene FMV people in the world of full 3D modeling, which is very strange to see at first, especially when one of the people you can tell is clearly a planar sprite that is FMV casting a three-dimensional shadow. I was really struck by that, oddly. But there's a lot of little moments that are like kind of world building and clever little hints that kind of give you stuff about what's going on and lets you kind of imagine where we could be going with the story without just explicitly handing you too much. And again, the game is just so pretty, you're going to have a good time wandering about and just looking at everything for a while.
Right.
I'm not sure about the overall structure of it yet because I think I'm only about 3 hours in. But from the bit I've seen, it only opens up like a small degree, which is actually good because it means you can't get too stuck. Because this does have, unlike The Witness, there's a lot more potential to get stuck in this if you don't see the next cue. Whereas The Witness, you just wander somewhere else and do something else. This one, you kind of have to solve puzzles in a sort of linear fashion. It's not exactly straight one-to-one-to-one, but there's a progression that happens to some extent. But I'm very curious to see where it goes. I just got to a point where like a big plot moment happens, and then I stopped streaming because it was like 3 a.m. So I'm very curious to go back to it and see what happens next. And I will be finishing that game for sure because it's really quite captivating.
Yeah, awesome. Another one that I saw actually on the show floor in a similar vein to my Abduction VR experience was Alice VR. Have you guys heard anything about this?
No, what's that?
No, I was supposed to see it at that booth that had like 400 games from the country of Poland.
Yes, it did.
But like, I had the appointment schedule just had me like there. So in a half hour, I just crammed in like as many as I could, but I didn't get to Alice VR, unfortunately.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Alice felt a lot like Abduction VR for me, actually. So Alice is just sort of a first-person adventure puzzle exploration game. It's got some sort of like portal mechanics built into it. Not like actual portals, but, you know, like there's things where you go walk on the ceiling and you have this perspective shift and stuff. The Alice is, I believe, sort of an Alice in Wonderland vibe where they've got like this steampunk world that they've built, but it also has this sort of fantasy realm thing going on. The VR experience though was great. Again, it was another beautiful VR game. It really felt cool to see like these little robots wheeling around next to me that were completely, you know, visible from every angle. I still get blown away by that. Just like the sheer magnitude of stuff involved with making something work perfectly and be visible from every single possible perspective, you know, like just like the amount of work that goes into that VR stuff is really impressive. But yeah, Alice looks great, and I'm excited to check it out. I think it's coming out, I think, next year. I don't want to say for sure though. I don't think they have it listed either. So yeah, I won't say anything. But that's Carbon Studios Alice VR. Looks good to me. It's pretty. And I played Chasm as well. I know we've probably played that collectively like 10 to 12 times.
Yeah. I swear, like, I almost have like a failing memory because I swear that game had come out, but apparently not even close.
I had this beta build for like 3 years. I just want to play the game. I'm sorry. I know you need time to finish it. It's going to be awesome. I just really want to play it. That's all. I'm being greedy.
I don't think I even need to sell people on it anymore. If you don't know what it is, it's a 2D action Metroidvania style platformer. There's not much else to explain beyond that point either. But it's looking really solid. Maybe like the next Shovel Knight. Honestly, it's
I think
really
of it like
good.
procedurally generated Castlevania or something like that with a little bit of a Diablo-esque loot system. And those things together are like, sign me up. I want it.
Yeah.
And I've been wanting it for way too many years now. I really want it.
I think they know we want it by now. It's just a matter of, okay, they're nearly done, I think, now. They're almost there.
But they said that when we first played it. I'm sorry. I love you guys. Please, just I want to play a game.
Yeah. So, yeah, Chasm's good, though. And then, yeah, I think that was about it as far as the ones that stood out to me. Shadow Warrior 2, though, I was going to mention that for sure if you didn't, because I was pretty blown away by it. I went into that with, like, no expectations, and I had so much fun, so it was great.
Oh, yeah. Let's all play it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, that's a PAX West recap for you. Next, what's the next PAX? It's going to be PAX...
Australia,
that's right. Yeah, shit.
And PAX South in January,
and then
which is not really like a PAX at all.
It's getting closer.
Yeah, it's so tiny. There was like, when I went last year, PAX South was more of just like it's like a bunch of friends just hanging out. Like there's just no big games on the floor.
To go drink
it was
together, right?
It was super small. Like one of the biggest booths there was for Elite Dangerous, and their booths are never very big. And I'm like, they have like the biggest presence on this floor.
I mean, PAX this year was a little bit different than average because there wasn't really like one huge AAA game that everybody was like, I gotta line up to play that. Like there's no Assassin's Creed there. There's no like Far Cry that's coming out or something like that.
That's weird.
So there was like,
what was the biggest game?
Everyone was talking about the Final Fantasy 15 demo. It was
really?
You got to play it for like 90 minutes, but there was 60 minutes maybe. You had to line up at like 4 a.m. and then they gave you a ticket, and then you came back with the ticket to play at the time. And then you also there was excitement for the Resident Evil 7 demo, but it was just a VR vertical slice, might be the way I would describe it, where you're
like house on the show floor too that they were putting.
Yeah, they had that at E3. It was awesome.
I did it, Like, it was different than the E3 demo. The E3 demo, you're actually like playing the game. The PAX demo, you're just sitting in a chair, and it's much more like a VR experience where like things happen around you and it's scary. I was like, man, I get that you get to check out PSVR. That's part of it. You get to see Resident Evil 7. It's hotly anticipated, and you get to go inside of that cool building, which is, you know, part of the charm.
Right.
At the same time, I was like, don't wait in line for like 5 hours because it's 7 minutes long. So. They said it wasn't even like representative of the story. It was just basically to show off the tech and be like, this is what it's going to be themed like. And
do you know if it was the first hour demo that was on PS4, just in VR?
No, it was not.
That was the thing demo. Where you're sitting in the chair and the lady kills you. Okay, right.
At E3 they had the first hour demo that came out, and then on this was the kitchen demo.
Jeez, spoilers,
apart from that,
Nick. Didn't realize they got killed by a lady.
The other big thing was Secret Legend. That was like the talk of the indie mega booth. So that was it's a game that looks like Fez art style combined with the mechanics of Legend of Zelda, and it seems super neat. And I didn't get to play it, but I watched someone play it for like 40 minutes, and I was like, "This looks dope."
That looks
those were the three big ones I heard about at the show.
Nice.
That's going to be my next Titan Souls, can't wait for this indie game other than Chasm, I guess. Based on that very tiny description, I'm already
I was thinking that. I was like, this is Nick's jam right here.
All right. Let's talk about Ark. That's a fun one. So we haven't played a lot of Ark. Let's get that out of the way really quick.
I haven't played any Ark.
I haven't played any Ark.
Yeah. Mathis has played some. No, we tried to play some together. We
did try to play some together a while ago. Yeah, that was also incredible. It's one of those games that, correct me if I'm wrong, chat, but I'm pretty sure YouTubers and streamers have a financial investment within its development process.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That explains why it is the way it is.
Ark is.
You're muted.
So for those who don't know, Ark is Rust with dinosaurs.
Yo, I just wanted before. Do they actually have an investment in it? Because I don't want to come over the top saying that they do if they don't.
Chat's saying yes.
We'll just go with the proverbial they, I suppose, as far as.
Can we get a source, though?
Yeah,
I would like the source.
We will not insinuate that anyone is directly affiliated or receiving financial contributions from. Who's this developer? I don't even know. It doesn't matter because we're not going to accuse them of anything.
Ark Partners.
Except maybe bad business practices, actually.
Is the play as a bear and ant version of it out yet? Because that's the one I do want to play.
Yeah, Bear Simulator?
No, the Ark minigame where you get to play as animals.
I didn't know that was going to be a thing.
Yeah, there's like a trailer for it at E3 or something, and it looked really cool.
Huh.
I have no idea what I should be Googling to figure this out.
Fucking paid YouTubers. Google that phrase. See
paid YouTubers. T. Martin shows up.
All right, so the story here, though, why Ark is in the news for us today, they released some paid DLC for Ark Survival Evolved, which would normally not really be that big of an issue, or not even an issue at all, were it not for the fact that this is still an early access game. This is still listed as early access on Steam, and pardon me for being blunt, but the idea of releasing paid DLC for an early access game is fucking stupid. It's ridiculous. I don't know if we're gonna just devolve into a circle jerk about this. Is there a devil's advocate position to latch on to here?
A small devil's advocate position to latch on to, in which, and I'm not saying I'm on that side, but Ark currently owes millions of dollars to a lawsuit.
Yes.
Because one of the developers broke their non-compete clause by working on Ark directly after leaving a company that was working on another game, and that company sued them. Yeah, allegedly what? Allegedly.
We're throwing a lot of accusations out here without proper care, I think.
We're diving right into the swamp, man. Fuck it. We might as well get dirty.
Just
I
saying.
get dirty. I just took a shower.
That's the only devil's advocate position that there is.
By Daylight had free DLC.
So the
Daylight
patch.
still an early access game in my book.
The downloadable content is called Scorched Earth. It's $19.99, I believe. Let me triple check that. Yeah, it's $19.99 for the Center Arc expansion map, Primitive and Arc Total Conversion, and the Arc Scorched Earth expansion pack, which includes 11 new creatures, over 50 new items, a new boss, and a whole new map. Apparently, there's also like a fire-breathing dragon you can unlock with the DLC, which you can bring into the base game, which apparently causes some balancing issues, but that's neither here nor there. It's just the core issue here is still being the fact that they are releasing a paid expansion for a game that is quote-unquote not complete yet.
Wait, are we talking about Evolve or something else now? I can't remember.
Ark Survival Evolved. Is that what you're hearing me say? Yeah.
Just want you to know that
Yeah,
lawsuit is not alleged. The lawsuit is real.
Mm-hmm.
So I know, but it's
The alleged
allegations.
accusations.
Just
Apparently
because
it was
someone
settled,
brings a
like, they
lawsuit,
settled outside of
just because
the
someone
court.
brings a lawsuit to you doesn't mean you're guilty of what they're accusing you of.
Arc
Until they're
Dev settles
convicted of it.
lawsuit for reported $40 million. That's GameSpot.
All right, well that's, I mean, it's still alleged, but they did
say
settle.
alleged in the
Okay.
title.
GameSpot. Right.
GameSpot.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean
There's
that's
certainly a
close to
process.
confirmed as you're gonna get, I think.
The backlash from the community has been pretty swift here. Ark going down into mostly negative reviews on Steam. A lot of people are voicing their disdain and now distrust of the developer, which is... Okay, hold on here. There are 4 developers listed for this game. There are Studio Wildcard, Instant Games, Effecto Studios, and Virtual Basement LLC. This rabbit hole's getting deeper and deeper, man. What in the world? All 4 of them.
Could part of it be like middleware or licensing or...
This is an early access game, man. Like, what in the world is happening here?
But still, all the more reason there might be middleware and
Yes,
licensing.
yeah. Huh. Well, at any rate, there's really... I don't know if there is a position we could take. Because like you said, like, there's the issue of them having to recompensate their losses for a lawsuit, which apparently is mostly based around them using assets or something that they ought not to have done and having to pay out for it. So they've dug themselves into a hole that they're trying to climb back out of via paid DLC, it seems. But it's just not something that we can allow to happen. Not that we're like the gatekeepers to all that is good in the indie realm, but it's just...
I am.
Yeah, well, Nick is, right. Yeah, not the rest of us, though. But it's just silly, man. Like, how is the... I'm wondering if we should, like, debate whether or not Steam should allow this sort of thing. Like, that's how far I want to go with it.
Here's another devil's advocate for you.
Okay.
For all the backlash, if I go to Steam top sellers, it's number one.
Yeah, that's the worst part of it.
Like, you know, there is a backlash to it, and I personally, even though I always end up being the guy who's like anti-consumer, I think this is a really shitty business practice because here's the thing. What gets to the essence of it for me is if your game's in early access, your number one priority should be getting it to version 1.0, like feature complete,
Right.
not working on something that you can tack on at the same time because you feel like it. However, if enough people want to buy it, then I guess like... you know, at what point do you just say let the market handle it? I mean, I don't think it's unethical in this case. They're selling a product. I think it reflects poorly on the way that they're treating their customers, but
Especially when their
people seem to
original
be liking
product still is like runs at shit.
I
frame
think
rate,
they've
glitchy.
allocated some huge budget towards sponsored YouTube videos or something like that to try and drive sales because it seems too high to make sense.
I think it just like Ark has sold like, you know, maybe like millions of units, several hundreds of thousands of units.
Yeah, but why,
even
though?
like
I don't get why.
5% of those people buy the expansion.
There's so many competing games that are almost identical. I don't get why this one is doing that well.
It had that time in the sun, like right upon its early access release, where it was like everyone on Twitch seemed to be trying to get into the Ark Survival Evolved bubble. It's got 3.6 million owners on Steam. That is just totally ridiculous. And you're right, like it's topping the Steam charts right now as the top seller with the DLC. But
It's the 5th most played game on Steam at the present moment.
Yeah.
I'm so out of the loop for this game. Completely
I've
don't relate to why it's
tried,
popular.
man. I tried to get into it, and I played it multiple times, and it's always been a buggy mess. Admittedly, that's been like months ago that I've been trying it. I haven't done it recently.
Still,
but-
from what I've read recently, it's still a goddamn buggy mess.
yeah. So
It's freaking Rust with dinosaurs. That's what it is.
and that's what people wanted, apparently, but it's
Yeah.
still a matter of like, okay, if you're never gonna finish it, you can't. The early access model, I feel, is being sort of, it's being put under the microscope as a result of this, just because this can't be allowed to happen. I don't think. I want to take the position of Steam should not allow paid DLC on early access games. I feel
Why
that
not?
strongly about it.
Well, let's delve into this.
Yeah, it's just it takes away early access. Okay, if we look at early access as a concept, what do games have to what criteria do they have to meet to be early access? They're not done, and the development team is continually working on making it a completed product. Like that might be the only two factors, right? And I guess there's no way to argue whether or not the team is still working continuously on finishing the game while simultaneously creating the DLC. So I suppose then a precedent would have to be set of okay, so are developers not allowed to reallocate the resources they have available to them? I mean, I guess this is also a very particular example of this game blew up in early access, has millions of owners, is basically a huge commercial success. So then where is the line drawn? It's just
the traditional trajectory for day one DLC, and we can call this day -1 DLC or something, is that the big publisher waits for the game to go to press. There's all this time to use these assets and these people that they have at their company to produce more stuff. But in this case, the game isn't out and there's nothing to physically go to press. So why are we carving more chunks out of a game for more money that it's not finished yet?
We aren't. But
Yeah.
the question that I ask is, first off, I think Steam does enough to protect consumers by offering refunds. If you compare Steam now to Steam 2 years ago, they've added refunds, curator lists, reviews. Then they added the ability to sort those reviews. They have recent reviews. They have overall reviews. There's a lot of warnings that pop up before you buy something that sucks now. And at some point, with all of these safeguards in place, I'm just if you want to buy this and support the business practice that I think is pretty shitty, you by all means. Basically at this point, you're making your bed. So why I just don't understand why the company is beholden to it. I don't I'm not just Mr. Capitalism.
No, I get
I'm just
you, yeah.
surprised. I'm just surprised that people are this company shouldn't do this, and I'm well. The company's not going to stop because they have a huge advantage for doing it, and I don't think it's illegal. It's certainly not illegal. Whether it's ethical is up for debate. Why don't you talk to the 300,000 people that paid full price for this DLC and
Yeah.
shake them by the shoulders and say you're the people causing the problem, not the company itself.
Mathis, what do you think?
I don't know. I sit on both sides. I see the frustration of an early access game getting an expansion, I guess, for $20 where the base game is done. But there's nothing that says they can't do that, and I can't say they're not allowed to. It's like Ryan said, especially when there's 300,000 people who are I'm gonna throw $20 at this because fuck it. Whatever. It's their prerogative. They're not breaking any rules by doing it. It's stupid, and I think they should finish their fucking game first. But if there's money to be made, their people are gonna try and make that money.
Ryan, I think
There's no pro-consumer argument toward this, right? They're all explicitly pro-corporation, pro.
What about the
business.
consumers who like the DLC?
Right.
Do we know that there are?
there must be.
People are buying it, but
Yeah.
they're not saying if it's good, right?
There's
Are
gotta
they?
be,
It
How are
has
the reviews?
It has very positive reviews.
There are millions of people playing the base game. There are hundreds of thousands clearly already playing the DLC that I think are just in silence enjoying their product and getting what they paid for. I suppose that must be happening. There's no way that's not happening, right? But I want to look at this and examine it as a case study of, is early access still working, more or less? I fear for the entire platform, and I have for years because of various issues. But this seems like such a glaring, egregious offense of the model that I want to call attention to it in particular. You know, like it's so dishonest. It's just saying, okay, this is. You can't blame us for anything that's wrong with the game because you bought it in early access. It's your fault. But we also have this DLC you can buy that we also have the same caveat attached to because, you know, like we have the disclaimer up. It's a huge game. The scope of content is massive. There's 12 quadrillion dinosaurs that you could potentially run into. You'll never know. I can't feel comfortable with it, man. I don't know.
I would like to create a divorce between the way I feel about it and the point I'm arguing. And I'm not even playing devil's advocate. I guess I'm just cynical, where I'm like, yeah, of course they're doing this. And I just don't think there's anybody that, like, should be the people that stop them, especially if hundreds of thousands of people are possibly enjoying it. Like when Mathis said it had 81% very positive reviews, that blew my mind. I expected it to be in the 40s, even with the argument that I was positing.
Right.
The fact that people actually like it makes me feel even stronger in my position. I won't speak for anybody else. But I personally, I don't buy Day Zero DLC. I don't own Ark. I don't want to support this practice. I think that sucks. The fact that they're coming out with paid DLC for a game as an early access blows me away. How do they have any goodwill left with their player base and their consumers at all? But people are eating it up. Who am I to say, like, you know, no, you shouldn't have the right to buy this product that you enjoy because I think that it's kind of a shitty business practice. If they were exploiting child labor, if they were, you know, taking advantage of unethical subsidies that made it harder for independent game developers to, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But in this case, I think it's super shitty, but I also don't see why it shouldn't be allowed. I already think it's bad. I just don't see why it should be banned.
Well, I think maybe some of the volatile reaction that Bear and myself are having is because it feels like sometimes you've got to hold the line against this slippery slope of things getting worse and worse and standards going down and down.
Yeah.
That where do you call it? Like, eventually, is this going to become a standard thing? Is there now going to be a lot of people adopting this? Like, if you at least make a fuss about it the first time you see it, you've been recorded as having said so. And that's kind of where I stand on it.
Nick, like, I think you try to do that a lot for us, too, in that, like, maybe sometimes we won't see something as that bad at face value, but we look at the potential, you know, landslide that follows, and that it could very well make for bad future times for all of us. But
the unintentional benefit of crippling anxiety that makes me think about every possible permutation of possibility for everything that's happening.
Keep in mind, Ark also already has Ark Survival of the Fittest as well.
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the free DLC that is basically, like Battle Royale, like a culling version of the game, where it's 72 people fighting each other in an arena-style thing. I don't know if there are microtransactions in it. It's free to play, but it has mixed reviews. So this is their second expansion, I guess, that they're throwing out there.
Yeah. Like,
let me take it one step further,
okay.
And that's like, I mean, like I'm on the same page as you guys. That I'm mad about
You're
it.
appalled by it, but you don't blame them.
Appalled is maybe a strong word,
And
I do
terrified.
blame them. Like I know what they're terrified is even stronger than that. I just think like I think we're already doing what we can do.
Yeah.
Well, none of us are gonna buy this. You know, if it just doesn't bother me that much if 200,000 people go out there and do. The same way, like, hey, I think it's really shitty that, you know, when Capcom came out with Devil May Cry 3 on Steam, they had the ability to buy consumables for real money. That's shitty. I would rather stop playing the game than ever support that business model. But do I actually think, like, it's cheapening the experience for future games? I don't think so. If companies want to ruin their own games, they can do that in any circumstance. And I'm happy to just move on to something else. Well, like, I guess what I'm getting at is, what we're doing is not stemming the tide of this ruining the industry if you think it's going to ruin the industry. I don't know what you can do beyond being like, hey, we think this is shitty, and we hope you do too as well. I'm not joining like a not-for-profit like stop immoral publishing practices from early access indies kind of confederation or something.
You're not gonna sign my online petition to stop ARC developers from
Once they
releasing
have
paid DLC in the future?
100,000 signatures, they have to look at it.
I'm gonna
right?
make
That's how it
President
works.
Obama address this issue. I feel like this is of vital concern to the whole nation. So
You know, the thing we are capable of doing is having a discussion about it. And I grant that, yeah, we're not going to change the industry because we had to talk about it in front of a few thousand people. It's cool that we can do that, and it's cool we can be heard about it. We're probably not going to change the world, and that's okay. But it is worth it to have these discussions and get into where we think the lines are ethically, if there even is a problem, because maybe we're just wrong. That's also possible.
I mostly want to, like, posit the idea that there could be a need for change to Steam's early access model because, like, Steam is a very malleable entity. Like, I remember way back in the day when Steam was first launched, like, everybody fucking hated it. You remember that? Like, it was terrible, and no one really wanted to use it. They have been adapting and molding themselves to the needs of the PC hierarchy for the last 10 years, or whatever it's been now, and the early access thing was something of their own design. You know, I think the idea of it has certainly existed before they put it into a concrete law on the Steam page, but early access is something that they have created and they have fostered, and they have the complete authority and control to do with as they please. And I wonder whether or not this is something that they should be aware of. I wonder if this becomes more prevalent because, hey, ARC did it, so can we. Like, that could, I think, just set a bad precedent for the future. But I agree with you in that it's not really like anything, while unethical, it is not anything that is just such an egregious offense that they really need to take action. Like, it's disconcerting, and I think maybe merits some sort of adjustment to the early access model. That's my...
Why? Okay, I guess this is a fallacious argument, but I would like to hear a response to it.
Okay.
Does Steam have a responsibility to curate on that level? Like, as a devil's advocate, what if a game comes out and it's just universally regarded as shitty, but it calls itself version 1.0 and it sells for $20? Does Steam have an obligation to be like, this is shitty, this is a waste of people's money, get it off the store?
I mean, I feel like that changes into an argument against quality and not necessarily against, like, an unethical release, you know? Like,
is it not unethical for a developer to release a game that they know is shitty or probably know is shitty?
Well, no, I think we're arguing two different things there. I think we're arguing, like, they didn't put out shitty paid DLC. They put out something that they shouldn't have put out in the first place, you know? Like, I feel they have an obligation to try to complete the game before they do anything beyond that point. And whether or not Steam is involved with that, I guess, is sort of something that we couldn't even possibly expect of them, given the scope that creates. And I'm empathetic with that, too, in that once Steam does something, that's a monumental affair. Like, that's going to cause a change in the entire landscape. So it's fragile, but I'm not sure if I can go along with your train of thought there.
There's a difference in that. What we're arguing is there's people trying to sell things on hype is really the problem here. The idea that you're going to say, I want $20 for this thing, and it's still in development, and I don't know what exactly it's going to be when it's finally done, but trust me, you'll get your value's worth. When a game is released as a version 1.0, you can put a cap on it and say, this game is done. We can review it as it is now. And if it sucks, it sucks. If it's great, it's great. But there's not going to be this sliding, moving scale that happens along the way. So that's where I get into this gray area of, like, is there value here? Is there not? Do we need to evaluate this better? Is there regulation needed? So that's kind of my perspective.
Yeah. All right. I think we maybe have beat this one into the dirt. But I'm really curious to see if anything comes as a result of this. I'm like 95% sure it'll just be water under the bridge in like the next couple of weeks, but
no, nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like I'm 100% confident in that. And that's not to say we shouldn't discuss it. I'll accept that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I am kind of like, I think it's a lot of bluster for something that we are not involved in. And I just, the core of the issue for me, I know we're moving on, is like, I can't get riled up about it when I have excised myself from that part of the industry. it's a self-selection process where I'm like, okay, don't need to worry about that game ever again.
Yeah.
I don't care if they make $100 million. It doesn't bother me at all. Does it erode
You don't have
games
to care
in the end?
You don't have to care about this game. I honestly feel like this game is significant enough in the entire gaming landscape right now to where if they decide that something is okay, it will make a difference for everyone moving forward. That's like it's almost not about Ark. It's about this practice is now being allowed, and it's because of Ark. More
It
or
was
less.
never disallowed.
Yeah, no, that's true. And that's because it never existed to this capacity. That was like the whole Steam creating early access bit.
And the point is, none of these games exist in a vacuum, and if 3.6 million people bought it, that's certainly going to make a few people take notice, and whatever their development practices or business practices are, there's going to be some notes taken there.
Yeah.
So
And
it's worth
if-
discussing.
Yeah.
If Tyne Sylvester from RimWorld says, hey, we're announcing RimWorld paid DLC that comes out before RimWorld actually exits early access, that's one thing. But it's exactly the same situation where I think I would just be like, that sucks. I'm moving on. Like I'm pushing it out of my. It's not part of the bubble that I care about anymore.
That's
like
fine for you, but not everyone has that attitude.
I think there's one abstraction higher up than this, which is just like the less games I have to care about, the easier my life is, I guess. And I know a lot of people cling, which is a loaded word, but have this idea that every game is of special importance and a precious commodity.
I don't know if they go that far. I think everybody has a sliding scale about what things they prefer over what things they don't. But like, I kind of want to see some sort of relationship between everything going on in the industry that makes some ethical sense to me. And when I don't see that happening, I feel like it's worth just mentioning for a minute.
Yeah.
That's all.
We can get
I'm not saying.
We can
I'm not saying
get
it
on past it, right?
I'm not saying it should be mentioned. That's just I want to avoid being misrepresented like that.
We got it. Okay. That's Ark paid DLC. Let's go to the PS4 Pro. Oh, yeah. Even more stuff Ryan doesn't give a goddamn about. PS4 Pro. New console release from Sony. They just announced it a couple of days ago. People basically knew that it was coming, but they officially announced it on the PlayStation Connect, I believe it was, or the whatever press event they just hosted pretty recently. What we know about it is that it does not play games in 4K, which was apparently what pretty much everyone cared about, and now they're all disappointed. Besides that, it, comparably speaking, is actually Rumble Muffin provided us with a pretty solid breakdown, so appreciate that, Rumble Muffin, for the knowledge bomb there. Comparing teraflops and price, teraflops was that term for how good is this stuff hardware-wise in layman's terms, I believe. And the PS4 Pro showed up pretty much in the middle of the list here. So he gave us the breakdown of all the major cards out right now. Lands somewhere between the 1060 and the RX 480, with the Scorpio being a little bit higher up there. So definitely not the most impressive hardware either, but still coming out. It's what's the cost? And actually, oh, they don't have a price listed yet, or do they? I'm not sure they do.
For the Pro?
Yeah, for the
thought
PS4
it was $400.
Is it 400? I thought it was 400 too.
Thought I
yeah.
read $399, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, okay. So let's go. I think we'll roll with that. Yeah, PS4 Pro at $399. So I'm guessing this is not selling anybody on a new console
I
purchase.
won't
here.
get it.
Yeah.
But I realize I'm again niche in that I'm mostly don't care about console games.
Right.
So
But
and
if
I
you
was like,
saw a practice, I'm just joking.
like it's gonna like you have to educate me. Like, what does the PS4 Pro do that the PS4 can't already do?
So let's. Oh man, you know what? I just.
Other than like upscaling to 4K.
Yeah. It's
Other than
that's
that.
so it's like it's 4K streaming, right, via Netflix and Amazon Video. It's got the upscaling for 4K for whatever content is applicable with that. Really, otherwise, you've got, it's just like an incrementally improved box, more or less. That's what we're looking at here. There's
Are we looking at like a 360 Elite type of thing, like when the
more
Elites
or
were
less.
announced?
It seems to be the case. Yeah, you've got It's slimmer and lighter. You know,
Okay.
you've got major selling point number one right there. Okay, so the HDR, that's the thing that sold a lot of people for the Xbox One S, right? And that is now going to be part of the PS4 Pro, the HDR gaming, the high, oh God, all these acronyms. What is that HDR? I am ill prepared for this
High
story.
dynamic range.
High dynamic range, that's the one. Yeah. It's
Unless it means something else for movies, which it might.
It might. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, suggested retail price $3.99 USD, $4.99 Canadian. Extra 100 up there in Vancouver. Ready to drop that? No.
Who are they marketing this to exactly? People who don't have a PS4 at all?
No.
I don't really see the appeal for hardly anyone.
I feel like it might just be sort of an obligatory thing. They're both Sony and Microsoft are working on the secret projects. Both of them are, and then you had the Xbox One S coming out. You got to get the PS4 Pro out, right? This has become run of the mill at this point, right? For every console generation, we've had basically the same iteration of those things happening.
There was a comment I saw yesterday that kind of summed up my perspective, which is a little anti-intellectual, but I'm going to say it anyway, and also not source it because I forgot who originally said it.
Okay.
But they said, with technology, all these new product announcements, they're struggling to solve problems that don't exist as fast as they ever have before. And that's kind of how I feel, not only about the Apple announcements yesterday, but also about the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One S, where I'm kind of I don't see who it's for, but I guess people are if you're at Sony or Microsoft, you're at the point where you're the other company's doing it, and people are playing less of our shit because the PC is it's just objectively more powerful. So we need something that can compete with that and continue to get third-party support. I guess it's a long-term decision. I don't know about you guys, but I had to buy a second 360 because my first one red ringed out of warranty.
I had to get an Elite. Yeah.
It red ringed before they had the lifetime warranty or something. I can't remember. But and from that point I was oh sweet, the Xbox One Elite exists, so I'll buy that. And that was a much better console. That was a console that wasn't just sexier, but also it had a much larger inbuilt hard drive, and I can't remember. It was higher performance or something like that. So I kind of see this as a move towards people who I guess don't own the console yet, or who maybe will get a second one for whatever reason in the future. I guess it's good that for the next 5 to 100 years, if you buy a PS4, you're going to get a PS4 Pro probably, and if you buy an Xbox One, you're going to get an Xbox One S. But I do see that. Yeah. As someone who owns both, I'm well, why would I buy something that's better than the thing that's worse than my PC, but it's still worse than my PC in basically every conceivable way?
Yeah.
There's also no 4K Blu-ray support on the PS4 Pro, which is very surprising. Sony, they're into 4K, aren't they? There's 4K Sony televisions, which... It's shocking to me that they would not want to be supporting that more. They've got a corner of that industry established already. And if anybody benefits from encouraging gamers to buy into 4K, it would probably be Sony. So the fact that the Xbox One S has that edge over it is really surprising.
It's also
sorry,
go ahead.
This is me playing the caricature of myself. What percentage of people care about 4K? I saw
that's a valid question though.
Colin Moriarty made a point for which he got lambasted on, and I agree with why he's being lambasted, but I also agree with his point in essence, which is at some point, power is not what drives innovation in the games industry.
Right.
The problem is having more power is never a bad thing. It's not going to compromise game design or mechanics or anything like that, and it has the potential to make them better. But at the same time, when they come out and they dazzle you with you can play it in 1080p 30 FPS with all effects enabled, or 1080p 60 FPS with some effects enabled, or 4K 30 FPS and blah blah blah. It's just it doesn't matter. In the end, at least for me, my favorite games tend to not be games for which that matters, so it's kind of missing me 100%. Also, I don't think I will buy a 4K TV maybe for at least 2 years, possibly 5 years. So
4K
this
is going to
stuff
be a
cool,
thing.
but
It's just not going to be a thing for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
I
how
find it
feel,
really
too.
funny. Like they're advertising this the 4K streaming on Netflix and stuff, but mostly every 4K TV that you would buy would have the ability to do that natively anyway. So buying another
Right.
box to do it is just
Yeah.
literally adding another step to doing a thing you could do from your TV.
Yeah, like they're mostly
So who
smart
cares?
TVs now, right? All the 4K ones.
They're-
Like, if you're
yeah,
gonna get a
they-
4K, you might as well get the smart TV because that's like
I don't know of
basically
one that isn't, but
basically
I
a
also
Blu-ray
don't know
player at this
TVs
point.
that well. Yeah, and it's not a 4K Blu-ray player, right? So
right. Yeah.
4K
Also
is just
not
in 4K is just in its infancy right now.
yeah.
Like it's just emerging. It's still a good chunk away from mainstream. I don't give a shit about 4K right now. So I'm not like the PS4 Pro as far as that's concerned. I would not buy one for 4K.
I guess
No
we're
way.
just left to assume that the Project Scorpio and what is the PS4 one called? Is it Neo?
the Pro.
Scorpion or Scorpio
No,
or whatever.
that's the Microsoft one. They have the
Oh.
secret project code names, whatever Sony's secret one is. I just
It
left
was,
to
it was Neo.
It is Neo. Okay, we're just left to assume that they'll be the 4K boxes, right? But at the same time, like we know that graphics cards in PCs and modern PCs are still struggling to keep up with that level of resolution.
exactly.
So it's like, how much can we expect?
It's
with
upscaling.
Yeah, it's got to be, and that's all we can expect, I suppose.
We can't go from this straight from like 720p 60 is the ideal that we were going for in like this last generation, and then we're just gonna skip 1080p 60 and go straight up to 4K. Like
It's
what?
literally 4 times the resolution.
I find that
I
ridiculous.
don't know if that's actually correct math.
I'm just gonna hold on to my money and wait for 12K.
Yeah, man, there we
Good
go.
to go.
Just add a couple of zeros to the end of that 4, and you got me sold.
Exactly.
400K. That's my final entry point into console gaming. But yeah, that's PS4 Pro. It's been announced. $400. Let us know if we failed to identify the reasons for which you are picking up the game, because we do lack that voice, and I feel like we try to acknowledge that as often as we can, in that we do not represent the console gamer in basically any meaningful way at all. So if you've got that,
Right.
if you've got that insight to provide, I am very curious to see what the selling points are for people who are going out and picking up a PS4 Pro. So let us know. And now we'll just go talk about the Final Station real quick. You want to jump right into that? Mathis, you want to tell me about Final Station?
Final Station is an indie game out on Steam right now. It is a God, how do I explain how this game is? It's a game that initially comes across as like this light survival shooter where you're going from station to station, looting buildings for medical supplies and food, and trying to keep the people on your train alive until you get them to their next station in what is essentially a zombie apocalypse. What it actually is, the more I play it, is actually a very sci-fi story-driven game. And I was surprised because the Final Station, my initial impression, the first 45 minutes of the game, I was like, this is cool, I like it. Then the next half hour of the game, I'm like, this is repetitive and kind of light on gameplay mechanics, and I'm kind of bored of it. And I was like, I'm going to keep playing it, though, because people are enjoying watching it, and I'm not hating it, so I'll keep going. And then in the next hour, I, fell in love with it. And my opinion totally changed, and you got to look at it for what it is. The gameplay mechanics of the game are very, very basic, and that's, the biggest gripe I have. You just go, like I said, you're going through buildings, you're looting things, and you're shooting these zombies. You limit it to 2 guns, a pistol and a shotgun, and you learn the archetypes of what these are, quote unquote zombies are, and you learn how to deal with them best. And it's pretty simple. It's all about the atmosphere, the world, and the lore that is interwoven within the world and is being told to you not directly, but through notes that people left their loved ones and then never came back, and these bodies that are laying on the ground that give hints of what happened. And so for the next, how long did it take me to beat the game? Let me look. So for the next, I played for 4 hours. So it was 4 hours to beat the game. You're piecing together what's happening in this world, and it gets really interesting. And like I said, it's very sci-fi driven. About halfway through, you realize this is not really a zombie apocalypse. This is something completely different. And trying to discover and put together what that is and how depressing it kind of becomes was really what hooked me. And I fucking loved it. And the game ended, and I still have questions, though I answered a lot of what I was wondering about just through speculation, but I still sit and wonder, go like, what actually happened in the game?
Mm-hmm.
And I fell in love with it because of that. And I know Ryan had a very similar opinion that I did, like about the first couple hours into the game. Is like, this was cool, and then it kind of got boring before it got good again. I don't think you got to the good again part.
Yeah. Okay. Like the first hour, the first like 45 minutes of it, no combat. That's okay. Is very, very, very slow.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the game lost me. When I got into the combat, I was like, it's okay. It's kind of like a
basic.
Yeah, it's a slow, more methodical version of like not a hero, I guess. But I got to the point where I was almost like insulted with the train mechanics. Like especially for the
sucked.
For the first few days, for the first few in-game days, I was like, this is actually like, so you go and you like go through the town and you're like, oh, this is cool. I got the password, now I'll just make it back. I'll loot as much as I can. I've got survival elements, cool. And then you get back to the train and you just watch 2 meters like slowly get asymmetrical, and then you're like, okay, they're out of balance. Click on this one. All right.
Yep.
And then they go like that, and you go, okay. Get back up.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah, it's like RimWorld.
This is nothing like that.
That is overly reductive.
It is, keep talking. The train situation is like keep talking and nobody explodes for like infants, basically.
Yeah.
Which could be fine. Like light elements of that could be cool, but it was just like they want you to like listen to a story at the same time, and then you're like monitoring your train, but the monitoring the train never feels like you're juggling tasks. You're just like, these things are out of sync. Just click the button. Now they're in sync again.
Mm-hmm.
So every time, so when you're going from station to station, like when you go into these buildings, every once in a while you'll come across survivors and they get put on your train, and you kind of have to take care of them until you get to the next destination. And they have their own little meters. Like each survivor has like a food meter and a health meter that's gradually going down. And you kind of have to like bring them food or bring them bandages, or they will die. And I had like 2 of them die on me just because I didn't have enough. But every time you go on the train, one of like 4 things is breaking down on your trip, and it's like Ryan said, it's that simple where maybe one's like these middle meters going up and down. And you have to like just click a button until there's a green check mark, and you're like, all right. One of them is just you pull a lever. You just pull a lever, and okay, you're good. And it just felt really forced when
Lever.
the interesting part of the train is just listening to the passengers talk to one another and relay their stories to one another. And talk as if, well, not really talk as if you're not there, but you're not part of it, so you're just trying to grab bits of information out of their conversation to piece together what's happening. But as they're talking, your train is like breaking down, so you're just like mildly distracted with this other mini game, and it's distracting from listening to these people talk. So it just came off as annoying.
It's like
And the
trying
train
to host
mechan-
a tea party while your house is on fire.
Except it's like not really on fire. It's just like a little flame
Or there's
in your
like-
oven that you have to like pay attention to. You're like,
Shit
oh, God
keeps
damn it.
breaking. You gotta like
Like your
repair a
smoke
leaky
detector
pipe.
goes off like
Yeah, you have
once
to like
every
replace
30
the battery.
seconds.
Yeah,
Annoying.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it just was annoying. Yeah, I didn't like that part at all. I just wanted to listen to my passengers talk because I wanted to know what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, "Oh, I'm bleeding. Get me bandages." So you have to like walk away from the conversation. You're like, "This is dumb. Like, I don't want to do this."
Oh, I'm bleeding.
Yeah,
I'd love to tell you more about my story, but I seem to have an open wound here.
And
that
like
I
when
can't
somebody
address.
dies, like people are talking, and when somebody just like when they die, they just fall off their chair and they just like and they're on the ground, they're dead. And the people just keep talking. They're just like, so I was like, all right, I'll just seem to go over and you have to like mash the E key a
You wanna
bunch
make
until
sure
the
nobody
body
explodes.
disappears.
Yeah.
It was really weird,
I-
but I loved it.
I'm wondering how far I am gonna get into it, because I'm feeling already, only for like the little bit of it that I've played, I'm already feeling that the train repetition will begin to wear it down on me fairly quickly, and I feel like this is maybe a little I don't know what word I would use to describe it, but the pixel art makes it kind of difficult for me to get invested in the story. And it's nothing against this game in particular's art, because I think it actually looks pretty good. I like the parallax scrolling through the town, and there's all the like there's just the cars running down on the bottom as you're walking around, and all that stuff is really nice. But it's really hard to get invested in characters when it blocks. Like,
The game is not about the characters. It's about the world.
Mhm.
Like the characters, even your character it's not about them. That's what you have to learn really quickly. Is like
Okay.
they're there to relay information to you, and that's it. The world is the story. And when you get later on in the game, what's going to be beautiful, in my opinion, is like the backdrops are super detailed and gorgeous, and the backdrops are telling a story. Like when you're going on a train and like you're starting to hit the sci-fi elements, like just pay attention to what you're passing in the background, because in the back there's a story being told. The characters don't matter; they really don't.
Okay, well, that might be that might change my opinion a little bit then. Yeah. Well, great. I don't have anything left to say about it. It sounds good. It's a
Do you recommend it?
Yeah.
I recommend it. As long as you know what you're getting into. As long as you're not going in expecting a survival game, because you're going to end up being disappointed. It's very light survival action elements, but if you're in for like a really neat world that I hope they actually expand on at some point, go for it. I definitely recommend it.
The gameplay is not the selling point. That's
No.
just fair to say,
It's
right?
about
the
the
gameplay
narrative
isn't-
exposition.
It's
and
the narrative
atmosphere.
exposition. I don't. The gameplay's not bad. It's just light and repetitive. You know what I mean? Like it's not.
Is it
deep.
just like it's just necessary for it to be a game, I guess, right? No.
The
It's just-
train stuff is pretty bad.
The train stuff is just annoying.
I mean,
I don't
and
think
like,
it's-
I don't think it's a bad game. And when I did my video on it, I was like, I actually I like the tone. I like what they're doing with the story, and the combat is like actually pretty okay, except for the times that you aggro 5 enemies and then you have to go down a ladder, so you have to wait for them to not aggro, and then you climb up and shoot one, and then you go down a ladder again, and then you climb up and shoot one, and rinse and repeat 30 times until they all actually die. Like, that stuff is pretty okay most of the time, but the train stuff just keeps me from being like, this is easy to recommend. I was like, it's pretty good.
The train stuff isn't like. I don't like the train stuff. I don't. But I don't think it like is a game ruiner. It's just annoying. It's just like an annoying gameplay element that didn't need to be there, but is there.
Makes sense.
Nick, you were like owing at something, so I'm curious.
I was owing because I was surprised that Ryan said the latter part where you go up and down 30 times was actually fun.
No, to clarify, that sucks. But when you don't do that,
Oh.
combat's pretty good.
Oh, I misunderstood them. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that was, as soon as I said it, I was like, that's kind of misleading. The ladder stuff just makes me want to be like, just kill me and then I'll try it again. But the actual like methodical part, when you're planning on how to deal with enemies and stuff like that, that's okay. But I also, unlike Mathis, I think I tend to err on the side of like extremely emphasizing mechanics over story. So I basically like, unless the story blows me away, I mostly find myself being like, who cares? It's mostly just like,
the world really got me. And there was one moment in particular that I don't want to talk about where I read like one note, and it was like an aha moment that really put the world together for me, and I was like, okay, this is really cool. But yeah, I don't want, I'm not like Ryan where like mechanics are important to me, but they're not, they're kind of like even playing ground for me. I like, if the story's excellent, I can overlook some less than perfect gameplay mechanics.
I'm a little worried that I'll feel the redundancy begin to bear down pretty quickly, but I think you may have sold me on the story enough. So yeah, I'll probably push on. We'll see. Yeah, that's the final station. It's $15 available on Steam right now. And let's talk about Lococycle. Nick, mostly.
All right, so chat's probably wondering, and people were wondering, why the hell are we talking about Lococycle?
Yeah.
Reasonable question, to be honest. So I recently played it on my 24-hour stream, as the idea was I'm going to play a shitty game for a while. And I picked Lococycle because I heard it was bad. Funny thing is, it's actually really good.
Is it awesome? Oh, shit.
It's really good. It's so funny. All right, let me give you some background. Lococycle, first of all, it opens up with full motion video cutscenes featuring Sex Machine from the Quentin Tarantino movie and
hold on.
whatever
I'm
it
gonna
turns
get
into
From Dusk Till
Werewolf.
Dawn.
Thank you. From Dusk Till Dawn. He is the main antagonist, but there's also an angry motorcycle who is sentient, and a good but also bad motorcycle who is sentient. So there's this big arms dealer corporation who is manufacturing weapons, and the whole story opens up with everyone's watching this presentation about these new motorcycles and all these weapons that they're going to sell. And the biker gang wants to buy the weapons so they can rule the world by force, obviously. After that presentation, we pan over to a shop where the motorcycles get stored for the night, and I guess a mechanic is going to work on it. As it turns out, the mechanic had left a porno mag on the ground that had something to do with bikers and sexy girls and things. The bike scans that and assumes the personality of one of the characters in the magazine, comes alive, and then grabs the mechanic named Pablo by the ankle because his foot gets caught in the side of the machine, and decides it's going to now take a cross-country trip to go to a freedom rally where the bikers are so it could be with its people. And the entire game is the motorcycle talking shit to Pablo and dragging him across the country, dragging on the ground and fighting the big arms corporation who is trying to stop you from getting away.
I finally found it in your VOD, and oh my god, this looks phenomenal.
It seems so bad, but it's so fun. There's like 100 different game mechanics that some of the combat ends up feeling like Bayonetta, if you could believe that. Like, you take off from the ground and you start throwing Pablo at all the enemies and like juggling them and turning into fucking electricity. It's so fun. And then there's like rail sections with combat, and there's skill tree upgrades, several boss battles. I mean, the lines in it and the FMV scenes throughout the game are all hilarious. I was laughing so much I was crying for the entire thing. And then the final scene, which I'm not going to spoil why it was amazing, but they did something that I've never really seen done in video game design before that made me so excited, and I laughed my ass off. Just like a technique that I've never quite seen done in a game, and it was shocking to me because it was so cool. So check out Lococycle. You might be surprised with how funny it is. It's extremely irreverent and just entertaining and actually quite fun to play.
I love that he's just being fucking dragged on his ass across these asphalt
and he only
roads,
speaks
man.
Spanish. He only speaks Spanish, so the whole time he's yelling at the bike in Spanish for the entire game.
That's awesome.
And the bike never understands what he's saying. But there's subtitles, so you understand what he's saying.
Holy shit, okay. That sounds
ridiculous.
That sounds ridiculously awesome. Is what
How
that
long did it
sounds
take
like.
you to beat it? Like, how long is the game?
The average playthrough is between 4 and 5 hours. I think I made it take a little longer. There's also a ton of video unlocks and behind-the-scenes stuff, and I've been watching them little by little, and I said to chat, we're going to have a yearly replaying of all the FMV scenes in the game, because it's so funny.
God damn. All right. Lococycle. That's it came out in 2014. It's currently on Steam for $10. Damn. All right. There's a good recommendation. You gotta dig deep sometimes like that, I think, man. That's really good. Okay. Rocket League Rumble. Hey, Mathis. Hey, Mathis. I swear to God. No, wait. Come back. Come back, dude. It's so good. It's so
Mathis,
good,
we gotta
man.
get our check from Psionics. Come on, man.
We're sponsored by Sonics.
Oh, no.
We are going to shit on terrible DLC practices. The least we could do is talk about this huge update Psionics is releasing for free a year after they made the game in the first place, after making another huge DLC for free.
Listen, I don't hate I think Rocket League is great. I think it's super awesome they did this DLC.
Mm-hmm.
I just won't play it because I don't care enough. So you go ahead.
All right. That's all right. That's okay. I can accept that. Rocket League Rumble is so much fun. I love it. It is a new free update, like Ryan said, courtesy of Psionics. They have released this for everybody. The Rumble mode has new... it's actually got a few new things in addition to just the Rumble mode, right? I think they released a couple of those new Rocket Labs maps along with some new customization options for your car and different stuff like that. But the Rumble mode itself is so much fun. So in just the default Rumble playlist... you go in, it's just Rocket League as usual, apart from a little countdown timer to the left of your boost. The countdown every 10 seconds gives you a new power-up. There's things like spikes, like a boot that you can use to hit enemy cars. You've got a strength power-up that makes it so you can one-hit demolition anybody that you touch. There's infinite boost that you can give to an enemy that you can force them to use boost for the next like 5 seconds or so, and they have no control over it. there's all these different things, all the different power-ups that actually just work so well with the game. Like, I guess I shouldn't be as shocked by that as I am, that the power-ups that they made were great for Rocket League, but it's not just like some sort of additional gimmicky party mode tied in. It's like it's a whole new dynamic for Rocket League that works really, really well.
They could have, if Rocket League was like a $60 game, they could have released Rocket League Rumble for like $10.
Yeah.
And people would have been like, this is totally worth it.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have even been upset because it's actually a pretty meaningful addition to the game, and I think it actually totally goes a long way to revitalize kind of getting everyone back to a ground floor of accessibility, because the big problem was people got so freaking good at Rocket League I couldn't play with anybody. All my friends beat my ass every time, and this one gives you at least 1 hour where you're at least on an acceptable level versus your friends again. But I've been over that hour now, so then no worries.
I think you nailed it with that. Actually, I feel like the appeal is going to be bringing a lot of new players back again, and the console players, of course, they just recently were able to join in the fray, or not recently. I guess it's been a little while now, but still, yeah, like it's great for noobs. It's great for veterans because it's really is evening things out, and it's a bunch of fun.
I'm a new veteran.
Yeah.
It makes me like. There is like 0% chance, I think, that it will be my gateway drug back into playing Rocket League on the regular. Mm-hmm. But I'm content to play like 30 hours of Rocket League Rumble.
Yeah. I was going to say 10 to 30 hours, I think, is right in the sweet spot.
And it's a really, really good free update.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's exceptionally good for a free update.
I talked about like the new dynamic that it creates. We just saw a couple of examples on the video that I'm playing, but there's new moments created as a result of these power-ups. Like you have these epic saves and cool moves that people were doing in Rocket League the entire time, but now you've got shit like the ball is on a direct trajectory for the goal, and now all of a sudden out of nowhere somebody pulls out a freeze move and freezes the ball in place like a foot away from the net. Or like somebody's able to latch onto it with that plunger move from half court and just fling it all the way across the map into the goal. Like that kind of just random nonsensical shit. While it's so crazy, it's like that best kind of crazy where it's this sort of controlled crazy where everybody's got their own input that they're very deliberately utilizing, and it all just makes for this cacophony of madness out on the court or out on the field. And it's so satisfying to play. I'm just having a blast with it.
If you got a group of people with you and you're trying to coordinate, there's a whole second level where you try and set up team synergies with the right power-ups. And I'm getting a little deep on it already, but it sort of lends itself to that. Where, for example, somebody's about to score, you freeze it right in front of the goal, then you use that bungee cord to pull it back in the other direction, and you tornado the cars away from it on the other side. Right. That's three things all working in tandem. Or you could just grab some spikes and run it through like a football. That's also an option, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good time. Have we sold you on it yet, Mathis?
I'm trying to sell my socks in chat.
Will you sell my shirt for me? Real quick?
Come on, man. You do a great job selling your own shirts.
Thanks.
I Bear shirt.
Yeah, this is too busy playing the Oddworld game that came out 2.5 years ago.
Yo, that's my next Judge Mathis. Come on, don't ruin it.
I just played Lococycle.
Yeah, that's true.
God damn.
All right, yeah, that's Rocket League Rumble. It's real good. It's free if you have Rocket League. You can play it now. It's got a playlist. There's like 50,000 people in the Rumble playlist, so you got plenty of matches waiting for you. Go check it out. It's a good time. And that's that. And that is going to do it for everything but everyone's favorite segment, Ask Roundtable. Right here now. Ask Roundtable is the weekly segment wherein you ask us a question. Send your question into roundtableyt@gmail.com, and we'll do our best to answer those. This week's question comes from Chase. Chase says, actually, let me get the full, I don't have it up. Okay, this is fine. Chase asks, what do you think a new MMO would have to do to revitalize interest in the genre? Is there a certain IP that you think could pull in enough interest? There was a little bit in the preface as well about the fact that World of Warcraft, they stopped reporting their subscriber numbers about a year ago or so, and they've, been on a little bit of a decline since then. Of course, in extreme recency, we have the Legion release to look at, and that has, I think, revitalized the WoW scene quite a bit, probably to the degree that it revitalized during that previous expansion which was
Warlords of
Miss-
Draenor.
yes,
Draenor.
Mists of
Mists of
Draenor.
Draenor, correct. And Warlords of Pandaria.
Warlords of Pandaria. That's what I was
So
going to say.
before we even begin to dive into this, I feel like we should preface it by saying that while it may appear at face value that MMOs are beginning to decline, that's an argument and that's a conversation that it feels like we have basically annually at this point. There's 40 think pieces written in the past 10 years called "Is World of Warcraft Finally Dying?" So it's an often discussed topic, but Mathis, you probably know way more about that than I think the majority of us. Yeah,
I mean, maybe.
I think so.
So, I mean, yeah, I think the argument is that, or what I would say the argument is that the gold rush for MMOs is done.
Mm-hmm.
People are done chasing the WoW model and trying to replicate WoW and make WoW like the next WoW or the WoW killer or whatever.
We don't need a WoW killer anymore, right? That's not even that's not even
the
a
thing,
term,
right? They've moved on to they did MOBAs after that, and then after MOBAs, that started to die, and now it's survival games. Like, the cash train is chasing along, but the established MMOs that exist right now are doing really, really well. I mean, you still have World of Warcraft as of right now. They reported like day one sales of Legion were 3.3 million copies sold on day one. Sub numbers are back up to, they didn't give us numbers, but they say they're healthy in the way they were right when Cataclysm launched, which was around like the 9 to 11 million mark, somewhere around there. And of course, you know, everybody can say Warlords of Draenor, right when that launched, that was super popular and revitalized it. So we'll see if Legion can hold on, unlike Warlords did. I think that why Warlords didn't hold out, there's a whole discussion about that I could have. But I can say Legion is special in a way that Draenor was not, and that it's emphasizing like a multiplayer. It's emphasizing what the title of the genre is, MMO, in a way Warlords did not, because Warlords had something called a garrison, which you just sat in by yourself and didn't interact with other players. That's kind of non-existent in this expansion. But not to talk about WoW in particular, I just think the gold rush for MMOs is over. But I think the ones that are around are healthy. Final Fantasy 14, Kate plays Final Fantasy 14 like crazy. And that has a huge fan base as well. And then you have all the free ones that do super well. I think the Star Wars one, you know, is free, still does pretty well for itself. They're just established now. And we're not seeing the next proclaimed WoW killer or next great MMO.
Yeah.
Hasn't it kind of splintered a little bit? Because now you've got games like Monster Hunter that are sort of like micro MMOs. They're like MMOs designed for small groups of people in short play sessions because they know not everyone can raid for 30 hours every couple days. And so maybe that's the direction MMOs are going to start to take in.
Well, they've already gone that route. Like, those kinds of raids don't... WoW has done a great job, in my opinion, at breaking that up. So you have, like, mythic raids, which is like the 25-man, this is going to take 6 hours tonight raids. Like the old school, not 40-man like it used to be. But then they have just like the regular raids where you can just, maybe an hour or two a week, you group up with like 10 friends and you go do a heroic raid or whatever. And then they have looking for raid, which is like, I just want to see the story of this raid. I'm not looking for a challenge. So you group with like 8 people, and then it just finds the group for you, and it's just like, it's like an easy peasy walk through the raid of like, here's the story, here's some really shitty gear, but you got to see the content, so that's cool. Like that kind of stuff WoW has introduced since probably Pandaria might have been when they brought that in. Yeah, but I agree that that MMOs are definitely going that way. I don't know how Final Fantasy 14 does their raids. And I don't know if you know, Ryan, but Kate would.
I won't embarrass myself by making myself look ignorant about it. All I know is that the consensus on Final Fantasy 15 is that it's really good and getting better all the time.
Yeah.
14, Ryan. 14.
14, my mistake.
Also, I've been told that apparently Elder Scrolls Online has made quite a few leaps toward validity and has now built a pretty healthy player base. So that's good,
that game
too.
sucked.
I mean, yeah. It had,
You remember their claims at E3, it was like 1 million subscribers or something.
Yeah, they would not shut up about Elder Scrolls Online at E3, so apparently it's doing well enough to merit that much time on stage. But, yeah, like Mathis said, like I think there's a pretty healthy player base that is just sort of never really gone anywhere for not just WoW, but really for 3 or 4 major MMOs now that still exist. As far as the second part of the question, like, is there a certain IP that you think could pull in enough interest? I remember thinking back before Elder Scrolls Online came out that would be something that would pull me into that world. I felt like I would maybe.
Then they botched it.
Yeah, they did, and I guess I was turned off to it a bit there. Is there? Let's twist the question a little bit here. Is there anything in particular, like an IP, that would pull you guys into the MMO landscape at all? Is there something in particular you think would draw you to that?
I'm already in.
Yeah,
so.
well, yeah, I guess Mathis is already involved. Like Nick or Ryan, you think?
No, I think I'm just like out for MMOs indefinitely right now because I was way too addicted to WoW and I just can't sacrifice that much personal time anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could see myself being into an MMO, but I can't separate the concept of an MMO from it getting better the more time you invest in it. Because I was thinking, like, what if someone made an MMO that you only play like 20 minutes a day and that's it? And I'm like, yeah, but someone will play.
That's called MOBAs.
Yeah, basically. And someone will play 80, and then when I log in, they're gonna be like, check it out, I'll go to the big dragon shit, and I'll be, and I don't care about loot, so I don't really care.
Yeah.
But if they could if some super genius game designer could make an MMO that was like, really you only have to play an hour at a time, I would be okay.
I'll tell you, if there's a Dark Souls MMO, I would try to solo the whole game, and then when it's impossible, I would give it up forever.
Yeah.
But I would play it.
I would never engage in the multiplayer aspect.
No,
but
I
sure.
often did that. I would love to play MMOs by myself because I'm just a crazy person. I don't know why I did that.
I would have loved Warlords Draenor because that's what that was. That was WoW single player.
See, like, I've experienced MMOs, man. Like, I played WoW for a little while. I never really got too far into it. I think I've said this multiple times. It got to the point for me where WoW was just go get this many of this thing for this reason, and that was literally everything I was doing. And then I played, Mathis, you might have to help me out with the name of this one. I think it's Terra.
Terra, yes, that's an MMO.
Yeah, okay, so it was Terra.
The super action focused MMO.
Yeah, that's
Korean.
the one. And that was okay, but again, it sort of boiled down to that aspect repeatedly. So now
I will say Legion has not veered away from that idea of like collect all this other stuff. What they've done and why I think I'm like back in it. Like I played Pandaria for like 2 days and I was like, I hate this continent. It's awful.
When you say 2 days, do you mean 2 days or do you mean 48 hours?
48. Well, like the least one, whatever one you mean.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the same thing with Draenor. I played it for like maybe like a day, and I didn't really enjoy it that much because I didn't like garrisons.
Yeah.
But Legion, I've been playing about 2 weeks before its launch. I've been playing pretty regularly through. And it still has that go collect 10 bear asses like situation where you're constantly collecting things. That's just what the quests are. But they've introduced some really cool community stuff that's been missing for a few expansion packs that is a big focus. Like there are world quests that you and a bunch of like people in the world can participate in, world bosses that will just show up and you and people in the area have to like fight together to take down. And one really neat thing that they did is they hid this super secret mount that players around the world had discovered 5 like super hidden caves and do very particular things to spawn this really rare world boss that when taken down had a chance to drop a mount.
That's
like
cool.
all this like this community stuff.
Yeah.
That stuff that's been missing from WoW for a while has me like back in the game.
That's
on
neat.
top of like the graphical overhaul and the audio overhaul, which makes combat feel a lot better, is really fun.
Yeah.
What was that, Ryan?
I have to ask a question about it.
Yeah.
Which is that after playing like 2 or 3 hours at a time, are you not struck by the realization that you're going to die someday? Because
You joke, but I've had
I'm
this.
wondering if this is like a fundamental difference here. Because I can watch like one episode of a television show. If I watch like 4 episodes of TV back to back, around halfway through the 3rd or 4th episode, I'm like, I'm going to die someday. And then I got to go get some work done or fold some laundry or, add something to planet Earth to push that feeling back in my brain a little bit.
You can
you
you
play
play
video
while
games
you
for a
watch.
living. You play video
I've
games
done
for
that.
a living, like. It's too late.
Yeah,
You're too
but
deep down that hole of contributing to society.
I think there's a valid point buried beneath the sarcasm there, in that, you know, like, there's when you're playing the MMOs, you get to the burnout eventually, right? Or is that not happening for you in Legion?
I'm not playing like I used to in college, I guess. Like college, I would sit down and like 9 hours of my life would melt away in front of whatever MMO I was playing, probably
Yeah.
Warcraft. This is like every couple of days I'll sink like a couple hours a night into it, and I'll either gain a level and I'll be like, that was fun, and I'll put the game down, and then that's it. Like I'm not grinding away a ton of hours on this game. Or my night will be like, I'll queue up for a dungeon will take me 45 minutes. I'll be like, that was really fun, got some gear, I'm done.
That sounds like maybe what Ryan was sort of alluding to, that perfect MMO formula of I would love to just be able to dive in here with that, you know, compacted experience, right?
That's there. Like, if that's what you want, that's there. The problem is you can't look at somebody and go, well, he's got the super rare mount, I want that. Because some of that shit is like, okay, that's going to be like an 8-hour investment.
Yeah.
As long as you're okay not be looking at that mount and being like, I don't want that mount, like, then you're going to have a good time.
I figured it out, man. I got this sorted on my end.
Oh,
so
okay, here we go.
When I played WoW, I was way into the modding community, and I really wanted my UI to look perfect, and I had everything really obsessively laid out for myself. So you have the most efficient raiding gear, and everything all's good.
Yeah.
But I eventually got Quest Helper. And the great thing about Quest Helper is it allowed you to basically pay almost no attention to the game at all and do other things, right? So you would set your quests in, and it would give you a dotted line like a GPS in front of you, and you could just basically like look over here, and your character would just kind of follow the line. I think there was even a point where it would actually auto-run you on the line, and then I think they said that you couldn't do that anymore. But you didn't have to read any quest boxes. You didn't have to spend any time with lower reading. You basically click the accept button as fast as you could see it, kill 5 things, get those things, check turns green, go to the next one, check turns green, and then you go back, turn them in, get your gold, get your weapons, good. So what that ultimately led me to realize is I'm completely not interested in playing this game at all. What I'm interested in
There's a
is
treadmill.
playing Clicker Heroes.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to play that game at all. It plays itself in the background on my phone. I check in every so often. I get free stuff for it. It satisfies that endorphin rush, that chemical exchange, and then I can move on. So Clicker Heroes freed me from having to play that
Clicker
game
Heroes is
and
the
spend
best
12
MMO
hours
of all
a day.
time.
It is. It's so good.
And to tie this back into the ARC discussion that I'm still way salty about, that is more of a troubling trend in game design for me than paid DLC in an early access game, is games that are deliberate Skinner boxes designed to exploit human psychology for extremely short-lived emotional gain.
I've never paid any money for Clicker Heroes, and I must have paid several $100s for WoW over the years.
That's true. Me too.
Cool.
I'm enjoying WoW.
Thanks for
It's
the
fun
question,
again.
Chase. That was a good one. If you want to send in a question to Ask Roundtable, you can do so. roundtableyt@gmail.com is where you want to send them to. It's time for everybody's favorite segment after their favorite segment. It's Nick's Weird Games. And Chase also had a theme song request for us from the Nick's Weird Games segment. He asked for Kenny Loggins' Danger Zone.
I only know the chorus.
That might work.
It's time for Nick's Weird Game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that. Wanna roll with that?
Okay, we're
fine.
good then.
Yeah,
All right,
I'm
cool.
good.
Hey, hang on. I got a high
Oh.
chat. Hang on a second.
Everyone, hi, chat. It's time to play Nick's Weird Games again.
This is the weekly segment
I'm
wherein
ready.
Nick picks a weird game from his catalog of many weird games. He'll give us some hints, and we're going to try to guess what it is. That's it.
We're back into the weird quote unquote section of JRPGs that are only weird because no one knows all of them. So good luck with this. But it is a PS3 one, so that vastly limits your options.
Okay.
Compared to PS2 anyway.
If it's is it Atlas?
No, actually, for
All
once. So we're dealing with a game that came out in North America in 2010 on PS3.
Okay.
I already told you JRPG. This one is developed by Level 5 and SCE Japan Studio, published by Sony Computer Entertainment.
Not like Nino Kuni.
No, that wouldn't be very obscure at all, would it?
No.
So I was gonna say that's not obscure.
It's a well-known one. I know that one.
All right, so I'm going to try and read this and not spoil it, so please forgive me if I say the wrong thing. The game begins in the Kingdom of Balindor, where Princess Cisna is having a coming-of-age banquet. Leonard, the main protagonist, his childhood friend Yuli, and the Avatar, a new employee at Rapishi Wines, where the three work, are tasked with delivering wine for the party. Once the delivery is completed, they decide to stay for the party, which is soon raided by evil organization called the Magi. In the ensuing commotion, King Valtos, Cisna's father, is killed by a man in dark armor, causing a shocked Cisna to regain her voice, which was lost when her mother, Queen Florane, was assassinated. Wow, dark stuff. So anyways, stuff leads to the main character eventually finding an artifact, and eventually being able to wield a large piece of armor, and he then goes on a rampage to save the kingdom, so on and so forth. Game features a real-time battle system, was quite popular in Japan, did not achieve much traction in the US, as far as I'm aware. Generally reviewed favorably to mildly positive. I'm seeing a lot of, like, 6s, 7s kind of ratings.
Mm-hmm.
Cisna sounds familiar, so I feel like I'm going to know the game when I see it, but...
Pretty sure you've seen it before, and it does actually feature a multiplayer mode, which I really don't know how that works. It says you can create a town to function as a lobby, and then you can set up shops and harvest spots. So I guess you could, like, set up a little world for your friends to come and visit. That's a kind of a cool idea, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I've played this game. I didn't play the multiplayer, though. So any guesses?
Level 5, they didn't do too much.
Isn't this Dark Cloud?
Nope. But good
Dark
guess.
Cloud was
There's
PS...
It was
Dark Cloud
PS2.
2.
But there was some crossover in the development team that did the multiplayer in this game, so not far off.
Huh.
Trying to think of, like, all the level 5 stuff. So they did, like... Oh, they did Dark Cloud, they did Ni no Kuni.
Chat's
They did
gotten
Ni no
it.
Kuni? I didn't know that.
Yep.
They did that weird Steam game that, I mean, it's a steampunk game. It's not on Steam. The XCOM game that came out for 3DS.
Oh.
Huh.
I wish there was a Dark Cloud 3. That would have been awesome. But I got nothing. I have no
Yeah,
idea.
I got nothing.
Is that a concession then?
I think so.
Yeah.
All right. Our game for today was White Knight Chronicles.
Oh.
Yep,
yeah.
I've seen that. I have seen
Actually,
that
not
cover.
Should probably go back and finish this one day. I think I got about 5 hours into it and kind of liked it and got distracted and played something else.
Okay.
But congratulations, Bakuzan. You're the first person I personally saw in chat that got it correct. There may have been someone else ahead of you, but you're the first one I saw.
Well done,
congrats
Baku.
on that.
Cool. All right. That's it. That's it. We did it. We did the podcast again, everybody. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. This is live broadcast over on twitch.tv/Roundtable Podcast. If you ever wanted to catch the live show, that happens every Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We want to thank our patrons for this episode, the $20 level and above, for supporting the show, keeping us going. Thank you very much for that. Those include, but are not limited to, Julian Avelsgaard, Scrouty119, Super Monoman, Colby Klein, David Schmitz, Greenlight, Mavier, Oren Saltzman, Christopher Flagg, General Crunk, Jonathan Graham, Eric Schooley, Brizzlebrit, Positron, Mitscara, Mediocrities, Justin, Smurfette, and Logan Ray. Thank you guys so much for your continued support over there on Patreon. If you'd like to support us, go over to patreon.com/roundtable. You can do it there. You can also follow us on Twitter at RoundtablePC. You can catch the show discussion over on roundtablepodcast.reddit.com, and you can rate the show 5 stars on iTunes. That does help us out a great bit as well, so appreciate that. VOD is going to be over on our YouTube channels. And thank you very much for watching this week. And we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Later.
Guys.